when exiting. Next stop, Gerrard Street East. Please look right for traffic when exiting.
Howdy folks, today is Sunday, September 28th. It is 12:37 p.m. and I'm here at the intersection of Gerrard and Broadview, and the temperature is an extremely nice 22 degrees Celsius, and it should be getting up to 24 today. There's an archway signifying the entrance to East Chinatown. And much of East Chinatown runs along Gerrard Street here, from Broadview to several blocks to the east, as well as down Broadview for several blocks. And for this walk, I'll be heading south down to Dundas Street East. And then I will be walking west over towards downtown, then passing through Moss Park and a number of neighborhoods, probably finishing up where else but Dundas Square. It's certainly a gorgeous afternoon. Well, it's one where I want to be inside watching baseball at 3 p.m. Today is the last day of the season where all the teams start their games just after 3. And by the time you watch this, you will already know the results if you're a baseball fan. But any combination of a Jays win or Yankees loss will have the Jays winning not just the division, but all of the American League, guaranteeing home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Whereas if they lose and the Yankees win, then we got to turn around and play a wild card game or wild card series this week. And they won't have Kevin Gausman at their disposal, at least for the first few games, as he's pitching today. But enough about that. There's the newly relocated Hughes Room, a live music venue that was formerly on the west side. Now in the old Broadview Faith Temple. I actually was able to go right in there one day on a walk. This is the Riverdale neighborhood. And the 504 King and 505 Dundas Street cars run up and down Broadview here, up to Broadview Station. And at Girard, the 506 Carlton crosses east to west. And there's a lineup across the street. I think I've seen a lineup there before. That must be quite the brunch spot. Can't see the name of the place. Seems to be attracting a younger crowd. I'm going to hang a right here on Dundas, and then I'll just be walking west, crossing the Don River, heading into downtown. At one point, the streetcar that went up and down Broadview was nicknamed the Broadview Express. It was back in the 70s and 80s. It was a relatively speedy service, at least as far as streetcars that ride in mixed traffic are concerned. That was rolled into the 504 King route. And the streetcar doesn't go east of Broadview here. I'm thinking, do I want to be on the south side of the street? Yeah, let's cross over to the south side. But just south of here is the Riverside neighborhood. And you'll see some old Edwardian and Victorian homes. Well, I'm curious, were those built initially as homes and then retail popped up on the main floor? Or were they always built with retail in mind? I'm guessing they were probably homes, but the buildings next to them certainly look like they came a little bit later, or they were renovated. But the stretch behind me on Dundas that extends past Broadview didn't even exist until the 50s. Before then, the street effectively terminated here. I've mentioned it before, but Dundas is not built as one continuous street. That's why it doesn't really follow that straight as an arrow or straight as a ruler east-west street grid that some of the other streets follow. It's a series of smaller streets that were stitched together. There's Hamilton Street. That's a bike share Toronto depot. Bonfire Cannabis. And these are some really lovely residential streets. There's a City of Toronto Facilities Management Division Operations Center, whatever that is.
So
and the closer to Yonge Street I get, you'll see the pedestrian activity picks up. There's an entrance to the Don Valley Parkway North. That opened up in the 60s. And almost immediately, it got the nickname the Don Valley Parking Lot. And occasionally you'll see Uber Eats drivers on their e-bikes going down that off-ramp, as they'll register their vehicle not as a bike on the app, but as a car or a motorbike, I think. So they'll give them directions as if that was what they were driving. They're really on an e-bike. And they'll end up on the highway. There's a high-end car dealership. Bentley, Rolls, Bugatti, Aston Martin, Lamborghini, Land Rover. There's a Mercedes AMG across the street. And this is the Don River, the boundary of downtown to the east. And that was heavily channelized and industrialized in the early 19th, or rather 20th century. There's been a big naturalization project to reconfigure the mouth of the Don River just south of here at Ukwemin Minising, formerly Villiers Island, part of the massive Portland's redevelopment project. IKEA 100% electric delivery vehicle. That's kind of stealthy. They didn't really make it look like your typical electric vehicle. That's Bayview Avenue. And a Lexus dealership across the street. Just up ahead is the Regent Park neighborhood, known as being home to Canada's oldest and most well-known social housing project that dates back to the late 1940s. It's currently undergoing a massive revitalization project. I have a friend who just bought a condo in there. Heavy cafe, shop, and event space. This route will also lead us along what some would consider to be one of the sketchier intersections in Toronto. I don't think I would disagree with that. That's right at Dundas and Sherbourne. I passed through there camera in hand several dozen times though and never had an issue. These are part of the revitalization of Regent Park. There's Araba, an expensive place to grab groceries. Across the street at Tahini's. It's a Mediterranean fast food restaurant, Tim Hortons. Sushi coming soon. So the influx of people has really led to a lot of businesses in this area. Nice little stretch of retail. The idea was to turn Regent Park from a predominantly low-income neighborhood to a mixed-income neighborhood. Le Beau Croissantiere? I don't even know how to pronounce that. Croissantiere? Yeah, don't criticize my French, it is awful. Well, feel free to. There's an F45. But there's just something about the way new retail appears in these condos that's kind of a little bit sterile and generic for my taste. I much prefer the older fine grain retail. The storefronts don't quite have the same freedom of expression they did. All their signs kind of have to fit into these cookie cutter size slots. They all kind of end up appearing the same way. Hey, there's a Wendy's. We'll cross over to the north side for a few blocks. This is Sumac. But the idea was to replace the old towers in the park, Regent Park development, which was full of low-cost apartment towers that were kind of segregated and isolated, with buildings that plugged into a more traditional street grid and felt less isolated from the rest of the city. And I think they've been mostly successful on that part. And this big aquatic center on the right went up right at the start of the redevelopment. That's Regent Park itself.
It's weird to me. I don't think I'll ever get it. I don't know.
Maddox Modern Rentals at Sherburne and Shooter. The city has seen a massive influx of purpose-built rental buildings in recent years, something that we haven't really seen since the, I think, the early to mid 70s. Over 2,000 rent geared to income housing units were replaced, and a number of market rate condos were built in Regent Park. A number of community centers and hubs, and we're about to go by the main supermarket that serves the neighborhood just up ahead. Hey, there's an ice cream shop.
Yeah!
The neighborhood just to the north of here is Cabbagetown, which used to extend down into where we are now, but as part of those housing projects in the 40s, a lot of those old Victorian homes were cleared out. Here's the Toronto Birth Center, whatever that is. And you can see the skyscrapers in the financial district off in the distance. Be about a 30-minute power walk. That's how you chose to get to work and you lived in the area. St. Bartholomew's Anglican Church. Sundays at 10:30. Oh, nuts, I missed it. Areas like this kind of break the continuous street wall of retail. There's Freshco. Discount supermarket. We are entering an area known as Moss Park. At least it's the northern end of Moss Park. There's the Toronto Council Fire Native Centre. So for the next several blocks, things definitely will feel a bit more rough and tumble, you could say. I did a video on Queen Street East that was inspired by a video that Eric D. Realtor made about why there's not a lot of redevelopment along here, and the same story applies to Dundas Street East as Queen Street East. And it's mostly the city's ass-backwards zoning that de-incentivizes developers from wanting to redevelop a lot of these units and build housing. They have to maintain a certain percentage of commercial use when the demand isn't there for it. And that doggo is happy to see her. Your friend with the cube dan. Jew Sushi and Bar. Right next to Six Strains, bongs, papers, vapes, and more. These beautiful streets like Ontario Street cutting through this area. As I'm approaching an intersection many people say to avoid, there's a church that functions as an outreach center coming up on the left. There's always people getting meals and that sort of thing in front. I'm not going to slow down and slowly pan the camera on them or anything. I'm just going to keep marching forward. There's a building on the north side of Queen Street or Dundas Street that has a fence in front of it, and they had to apply for a special bylaw exemption to build that. That was because a lot of people were loitering right in front of that building. That's an old seniors home.
Get the fuck out of here. What the fuck are you talking about? Back door.
It's not hard to see why some people might feel uneasy walking through here. Hopefully that's not a stolen food delivery bike. Although, given where we are and the unlikelihood of a food courier needing to be here, I have my doubts. We've smashed AirPods. Used to be a popular Pakistani Indian restaurant right on the corner there that would be frequented by cabbies. That relocated just east of here. Where the True Love Cafe used to be has been vacant for quite a while. There's always people hanging out on that side of the All Saints Church as well.
You get 4 pretty good if you get 5.
Of all the so-called most dangerous and sketchy neighborhoods in the city, I've had a lot of people kind of daring me in the comments to go through them. Oh, why don't you try going through Jane and Finch? Why don't you try walking Dundas and Sherbourne or Queen and Sherbourne? And the reality is I've done those areas dozens of times without issue. It's mostly just people trying to get by, with an unfortunate amount of people suffering from addiction and mental health issues. Here's properties that Had to have a pen or a fence put up in front of them. This is Pembroke Street. I know someone who lives on Pembroke. But it'll be interesting to see if this area transforms much at all once the Ontario Line station opens just south of here at Queen and Sherbourne. That won't be for a very long time. There's a 49-story tower planned for this lot. There's another one planned for where Fillmore's is. It's an iconic, well, there's a stretch, but hotel and gentleman's club, you could call it. There's plans for a 46-story mixed-use tower going in there. It's around 588 residential units, if I can recall. So its days are numbered. Toronto's ultimate gentleman's club, #1 for stags and bottle service. It's one of the few remaining. This is George Street. And there's a large shelter just north of here. That is to, it should have been completely redeveloped by now, but the city's been dragging its feet. That's just north of here on the right. MJ Curry and Chicken. I think that's new. I think that used to be King's Place or King's Palace, unless I passed it and didn't notice. Now Dundas Street takes on a much different character. There's a lot more people out on the streets from here on. This intersection has undergone significant redevelopment in recent years. And this neighborhood is known as the Garden District, named after the Allen Gardens, which is to the north of here. Well, northeast of here, that's bounded roughly by Yonge Street to the west, Queen Street to the south, Sherbourne to the west, and Carlton to the north. There's an old warehouse. On the right, that served a department store chain. So personally, I'm not a fan of retail like this even on the left. Every business has to have their sign conform to that little space with that green awning. And every storefront looks the same. To me, this older retail Just has so much more character. Oh, there's the nice shaded overhang. And a Krispy Kreme. This is Church Street.
I know, but like,
Speeds up the signal. It's for audible signal only. I mean, oh no, that's what they tell you. Oh. It speeds up the signal.
I fully disagree with that guy. I don't think that has any effect on speeding up the cycle. Pretty sure the other guy was just being polite. That'd be an interesting thing to look into, because you always see people press the audible button and they think they're just trying to trigger the signal. Happy hour, $4.99. There's the Burrito Boys. This whole block was rumored to be doomed at some point, which would have bid a sad farewell to the Imperial Pub. But I think the redevelopment signs have come down, so it'll be spared for a little bit longer. There's a neat rooftop patio on the Imperial. Although it'll be losing its view if something goes up in that lot there. There's Dundas Square. It looks like they're having an event of some sorts there. It's all caged off from the back. It's a Toronto Public Health unit straight ahead. It was a safe injection site. I think it may have been shut down. But seeing ambulances and police at this intersection was pretty much a constant. Some genius thought it would be a good idea to concentrate that particular activity right across the street from where a lot of people congregate at Dundas Square in the Eaton Center, as well as on a university campus. In fact, I've had more uncomfortable moments walking through here, just getting yelled at and told off, than I have anywhere else in the city, probably. I don't know the answer to that problem, but that site at that location was not it. The scramble crossing in effect. We'll just take a peek at what's going on at Dundas Square. Be hopping on the subway, going home, picking up some lunch, and putting on some baseball.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were doing that every day.
Huh?
You don't see that?
She must have a very bright screen to be able to use that in the sunlight.
See how they set it up.
This is a South American festival of sorts. Empanadas, tacos. There's a stage, but nothing going on there. Tamal Mex. He told me we were in the middle of July. I wouldn't doubt it for a second. Traditional Mexicano. But I am going to hop into the subway, so I hope you enjoyed this one, walking briefly down Broadview and then along the entire East Downtown stretch of Dundas Street. Finishing up here at the one, the only Dundas Square, not to be called by any other name. If you wish to support what I do, there's links to my Patreon and YouTube channel membership down in the description. I've got an Instagram account at Johnny Strides. And there is a super thanks button appearing down below if you wish to say thanks that way. A girl just said, "Fuck, I don't know how you're wearing a jacket," to that guy. I think you'll hear more sirens from this spot than anywhere else in the city. Anyways, go Jays, thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Yoink! As this car makes a illegal right turn. Good job.